Alex is recording the call. Hey, Alex, recording the call.
That's not my name, but okay. Speaking of my last name,
Mm.
you know, Armenia
Madagian.
is a Madagian. Yes, it is an Armenian name, and
Yes.
Armenia used to be Roman. Did you know that?
Yes, it used to be Rome, and then it became part of the Byzantine Empire.
Byzantine,
Yeah.
Byzantium Empire. Either way, the empire eventually fell about 1446 AD.
Mhm.
But, and I don't know if you know, one of the reasons why is they didn't have enough supporters, namely patrons. So, folks, if you don't want us to fall,
You mean
like
patrons? You mean patrons, right?
yes,
Patrons?
stop patronizing me. So, folks, if you don't want us to fall like that age-old empire, then please make sure to hit the links below. Really, really appreciate it. And of course, you can also share this video. That helps tremendously.
Now
Now,
that we get that settled, back to Byzantium, right?
now I recently gave you a book on
Yes.
because I like a year or two ago, I got this unsatiable fascination with it, and I'll get more into that later. But I read this one book, I loved it, and I had to give it to you. What'd you think of it?
I love the book. I liked it so much, I actually gave it to a friend of mine.
Oh, so as soon as you just couldn't wait to get rid of it. That's how much you loved it.
No,
Okay.
I liked it. I liked it very much. The thing that I liked about the book was the fact that it really explained how the Roman Empire got so big that they had to have two or three emperors, sometimes four emperors, to manage the place, right? And that's the early part of the separation. But the real story, the really reason I like the book is because it drills down into how the divinity of Christ, the divinity of Jesus Christ, actually fractured the empire. Because the Pope in Rome, by this time, we're talking 4th and 5th century now, right?
Yeah.
There is a Pope. There actually is a Pope. But for the 1st and 2nd and 3rd centuries, there really was no Pope. But once the Roman Empire discovered, it was Constantine who said, hey, wait a minute, this Christian thing could work out for us. This would be a good deal. We can get them to indoctrinate everybody to send us taxes. It'll be cool, right? We'll be rolling in dough. And every time we need an army, why we could just tell the bishop and tell the Pope, say, hey, send us people. Make sure they're
That's how it was on paper.
well, that's the Roman Empire according to Mark McIntyre.
Well. What's fueled this book, by the way, is called Lost to the West.
Yeah,
we'll probably
Lost
include a link and reference the author later. But anyway, what fascinates me so much about this is, yes, how an empire can split over really ridiculously intricate theological positions. I mean, nobody talks theology anymore, but theology wasn't just the talk of the day. It would literally fracture an empire. I mean, think about that. Somebody talk, it's as though Utah broke away because the Mormons appeared.
Yeah.
And
it was the various heresies that grew up. They're called heresies. There's the Orthodox position from the Roman Church and the Roman Empire before the Byzantine split. The Orthodox view is called the Trinitarian view. That is to say that God is one God. There's one God, but three divine persons in that one God. There's the Father who begets, according to the Council of Nicaea, God the Father, who his only begotten Son, Jesus, and then the Bird, the Paraclete.
The Holy Spirit. Holy Ghost.
Holy
Depending
Spirit,
if you're using KJV.
I call it the Bird. So there's the Daddy, the Kid, and the Bird. That's the Trinitarian.
So yeah, right. So it's kind of weird to talk theology and philosophy when you're talking history, but you cannot explain the Byzantine Empire
This
without
was
theology.
discussed in the marketplaces, in the streets.
Yes.
Fist fights would break out. People would get murdered in the streets if they had a different point of view.
Something like some riots. There were riots that occurred because one word was changed in a liturgy. I mean, that's incredible. So that just and that's not the only reason why I'm so fascinated by the empire. It's also the book called Lost to the West really explains how they had a lot of problems that we deal with now. They had rampant immigration problems, surrounded by all sides. In the West, after the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, you have a bunch of barbarians beating rocks together, and you would think that they'd be united under one Christian church, but no, they actually invaded their Christian brethren all the time.
Right, and it was the Pope who sent a cardinal to Constantinople, to Byzantium, and this cardinal said that he walked into the Hagia Sophia, which is the most grand church in the world,
For a
grander
thousand years.
yeah. And he walks in. The representative of the Pope walks in, and he says, "Okay, enough of this debate about the divinity of Christ. You're gonna obey the Pope in Rome, and he's gonna tell you what to think and how to worship, and that's the end of that." And you know what they said? They said, "Fuck you, right? Screw you. Go back
That's
to Rome."
a very liberal translation, but yes.
Yeah. Well, this is church history according to Professor McIntyre.
And it gets worse. I mean, that's the light part. I mean, people talk a lot about how the Crusades are just so horrible against Muslims and persecution. They have never heard of the Fourth Crusade, where the Christian army, allegedly Christian armies, forget about the Holy Land, they just razed Constantinople. They attacked, slayed, raped, murdered thousands of Eastern Orthodox Christians. I mean, it really puts the Crusades in perspective at where
a couple of things I want to explain, though, for our listeners and our viewers, and that is that as the Roman half of the empire decayed, the Byzantine half increased. It increased in power, it increased in prestige, and it also increased in cultural wealth, the arts, the sciences, education. They had vast libraries, they had universities before universities were even established in the West, right?
Yep.
And the only thing that really did them in the end, well, two things: bad emperors, okay, because they had that problem with emperors. But two things: they didn't anticipate the rise of Islam.
Nobody did.
In 682, they didn't realize how.
I'll speak briefly on that point. They were the only force that protected the uncivilized, uncultured Western Europe. While they're banging rocks together, because they destroyed the Roman tradition. All they had was the Judeo-Christian sort of idea of how society should go. They also needed that Roman institutions, which they gutted, and it took until the Renaissance for them to get that back into play. It was the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, that kept both the Judeo-Christian morals, principles, and also the Roman law together, meshed together.
And the Greek language.
Yeah.
And the Greek language, because Latin was the language of the Western Empire, and gradually the Byzantium let go of Latin and went back to the original Greeks, all right, which is a much more mystical language than Latin is, much more mystical language, and more suited for spirituality and theology and expression.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
one other factor I want to. At the end of the book, the author does say exactly what you did. In other words, if Byzantium was not a firewall against the Muslim invasion, the Western Empire and Europe would have been overrun by Islam a lot sooner than it really was.
No doubt.
Eventually, the other thing was cannonballs. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's what took down the walls of Constantinople.
The only thing
for 1,000 years,
those 1,100. 1,100.
Yes, you're right. And those walls withstood everything, but nobody imagined the invention of the cannonball. And by the way, they were not explosive balls. I mean, that sounds funny, but they were not explosive balls. They were big rocks of granite. They were round objects of granite, but so many of them, they would smash against the walls, and finally Constantinople was done. And the last emperor was named after you.
Michael the Ninth?
Yeah.
That's my middle name, but sure. Yeah, okay. I love how you just had to add that. We're running out of time. Trust me, I could talk on and on and on about this.
Read this book, please read this book. We'll put the cover in the video when we do the.
And also we'll try and link to the author. Make sure to thank him. And one other thing, I'm right now because I love the story so much. I'm listening to a podcast called The History of Byzantium. Mm-hmm. Love it, absolutely love it. It's much slower than the book. The book is very much a narrative. It's not a historical primary source thing, but it very much is a beautiful overview of
it's a page turner.
Millennial empire.
It's a page turner. It's an epic story. Yeah.
And
anyway, thank you for the book, Alex. Thank you for the book.
You're most welcome. Cheers,
Talk to you
guys.
later.
Take care. God bless. Bye.